ready to make sure my hair's not moving like a cockatoo. All right. Hey guys, welcome to our very first podcast here at HGC. We appreciate y'all tuning in and hanging out with us. Today we're pretty much going to be going over some things, our mindset, early preseason preparations, and the things that we feel like make us successful going into opening day of bow season. So how's everybody doing here today?
Doing good.
Doing real good.
Glad to be here.
We got none other than Mr. Mac Daddy Masters on the mic.
Mac Daddy.
And we got Mr. JJ, the buck biologist, here with us today. He's got all the answers.
No, I don't. But I can get you close.
Welcome.
He can get you close.
Welcome.
This is exciting.
Yep. So pretty much, like I say, we're going to be talking about some preseason preparations, some early season things, or early season success tactics and things like that we feel makes us successful as we prepare going into the season. So y'all just jump in at any time. I'm going to just ask some questions and let's just get some mindset going here.
Cool.
Let's do it.
So, basically, where, in y'all's opinion, should you be focusing your efforts and energy going in, to this preseason time frame? Because we're right here, what is it, August? What's the day?
Today is August the 10th.
August the 10th. Our bow season opens up October 15th.
Yep, 15th.
So, what is y'all's mindset right now? What is your thought process? And are you excited?
I'm gonna let Masters answer that. I want to see how he and I think, if we've started to think alike.
Yeah, the excitedness, I would say, is not quite there for me yet, but I'll say that within the last 2 weeks, I've been watching a lot of stuff on YouTube leading up to deer season. So it's getting close and it's growing. I feel like some of this is going to be just from knowing and talking to Jaden in the past. I know for us in our lease up here, we're getting really close to Labor Day is when we generally get to the club and start doing the bush hogging and the tilling and sowing the green fields with whatever we're choosing to do for that season. So I know that's getting really close, and that's typically kind of what gets it started for me, is getting on the property and kind of getting started with some of that. I know for Jaden, he in the past doesn't do that kind of work until a lot later in the year than what we do. But I'll let him go into that. So first and foremost, getting the food plot started, getting the bush hog done, or the bush hogging done, and from that point, you always start from that point of seeing, all right, I seen a trail here, I seen a hook bush there. You start throwing your cameras out and kind of start getting a little bit of an idea of what's going on with your deer herd. Focusing in on some of the food sources, the coming out of summer food sources that are naturally there, and stuff like honeysuckles. Honeysuckles in early season is always really good for a week or two, and then your acorn crop and that kind of stuff. So for me, it's mainly just finding where they're at and what they're doing for their summertime patterns. I guess is the ultimate tidbit for me. So.
Right. Yeah, I agree. It's definitely finding the summer patterns, kind of seeing what those deer are doing, and seems to change from year to year in a couple weeks time frame for us. It doesn't really start getting to feeling like hunting weather until middle to late October. I mean, it's still 85 degrees, sometimes 90 when we're going bow hunting. So it's hard to get motivated, but kind of where I like to spend a lot of my time is early season. I don't like to just jump in October all of a sudden I'm in the woods because the saying, oh, the deer know when it's deer season. a lot of that's true because they've had pretty much 7 months of uninterrupted woods, and then all of a sudden everybody is in the mindset of I'm going to go deer hunting or I'm going to get ready for it, and they're in the woods a lot, and they can tell. So I like to get a pattern for myself in the fact of I go in maybe once a week, sometimes twice a week if I can, and just make my presence known that, hey, I'm a regular here, and I always try to keep it positive, whether that's leave them some kind of food. Maybe I'll do some changes. Maybe I'll, like he said, do some bush hogging and stuff because deer are curious and they'll come and check it out if it's a new path or if it's, oh, hey, he came in and moved that log. He's the deer. They know you're there. At least where we hunt a lot of private land, and as much as we try to be flies on the wall, it's not possible. They're a very intelligent animal. They know you're there. So if you can make your presence a positive thing, that's always the goal, and that's what we try to do. So going in every couple of weeks or every week if you can, leaving a little bit of food, maybe just dressing it up, making a positive impact, and that way when deer season comes around, it looks no different than what they've been already used to the past couple months. So
Right.
they're used to seeing me once or twice a week already. It's just the same guy that's been coming. He leaves us food and stuff. So when deer season comes, it's not like, oh crap, what does that smell?
Yeah.
They're kind of used, and so it almost gives you a heads up or a leg up when you go into hunt season, and you're not sitting there like, okay, did I spray enough? Was I quiet enough? Because everybody out there knows when you're sitting in that stand, it's like super exciting because you know that there's been uninterrupted woods for months, and all of a sudden you're in there. So in the back of your mind, you're like, I know it's going to be great because no humans have been in here. So people know that human pressure is not good. So if you can continually like kind of go in and out and leave a positive influence and get those deer used to you and like still get camera footage of them as you're going in and out, like when you go into that first day, you're like, psh, I've been seeing these deer for months. They're used to me. It's just another day. So that's kind of what I like to do. Obviously, we love to get huge bucks on camera and pick one out and try to figure out a way to kill them. But I think the main goal is just trying to kind of making a presence known early on. And the earlier you can do it, I mean, if you can do it year round, great, but a lot of people can't do that. So the earlier you can do it and get those deer used to you being in there, the better.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I agree as well. And something that, Jaden said, I don't know, this might have been a year or two ago when we were just chatting, and he said, I was like, Jaden, what is in your mind the best time to kill a mature buck? And his answer was the first time you hunt him.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, that just resonated to me like, all right, and I mean, you see these guys, that do this professionally and they're traveling and, hunting public land, and, you see the guys, or the people on TV like your Primos, Lee and Tiffany, all these big names out there, and you see their mindset and their preparation and their confidence on top of that, that going in there the first time, they feel that's the best time to kill them. So with that being your mindset, what are you doing? What are you doing to prepare, whether it's a bachelor group or if it's just one main buck, that you're targeting to shoot? What are you doing to prepare, not only mentally but physically? Are you hanging cameras? Are you doing this based on bedding? Are you doing this based on wind? Like, what is all of that in your mind happening to prepare for opening day of bow season? For I want to be successful and on this target buck. First time I sit in the stand. What is that preparation like for y'all?
Yeah, for me, like I said, I'm sorry, Brandon. Go ahead.
So again, it's kind of touching off what the same things that I said earlier. Mainly just cameras. This is the first year that I personally have had with going off of history. When you hunt mainly public land, there is a form of history. Don't get me wrong, but a lot of that hunting has always just been, which mood I decide that day when I wake up, or it's dictated by, if there's a truck parked in this place to where I normally hunt, then obviously I have to go to my plan B or C, so on and so forth. But this has been the first year in many years that I've hunted the same private property, 2 years in a row. So now I have a little bit of, all right, this is what happened last year at this time or that time. So that having that history is, for me, a benefit. Going back to mainly what you were saying, the same thing that Jaden's saying, we're fixing to get our feeders here, not necessarily to hunt over. The feeders are not something that we used to hunt over, but just to promote those safe feeding zones to mainly get them on our property and off other properties or the neighboring properties. So, doing your legwork with the feed, giving them the things, the nutrients and stuff that they need in a critical time of their growing stage. And then obviously just using, game cameras to let that homework be done for you so that you're not having to be there every single, day to just put boots on the ground. Going back to what Jaden was saying, for me, it's, I don't know that I'll do much bow hunting unless I want to go try to, skin a fat nanny or something, but I don't know that I'll do much bow hunting until we get some, possible, all right, these bucks are coming into this place kind of consistently to where we can try to do the first kill, first sit kind of thing, because the homework's been done at that point.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like I said, if you're going in there every couple of weeks and stuff and making a positive, most of the time for me, it's feeding. I don't have to check cameras anymore because cell cameras are such a big thing. Used to, you'd have to go in there and clean a card out, check it, and that was pretty exciting. But now it's just instant. You get all the pictures all day, every day.
Right.
So you're just going in there to feed. And to further his point, even if we don't have a deer that we're actually targeting, we're still going to go in there and keep feeding and keep checking spots. I mean, if you've got bucks coming, deer coming in general, especially in daylight, it's only a matter of time before you get a shooter on there if there's one in the area.
Right.
If most of the herd is feeding at your spot and you don't have a major buck on there within a couple weeks, it's majority because there's not a buck in there. You're going to get pictures of him early season, like almost always if they're in there.
Right. Right.
I mean, they're in their pattern to where, like, bucks are cleaning each other. Like they're tight with one another this time of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not until really late October for us before they actually start splitting up. And it's been earlier before, but most of the time, when you see one of them, you're going to see all of them type thing. So
yeah,
I kind of know going into it, there's a buck in here that I want to kill. And if there's not a buck on this camera that I'm going to, then I'm, hopefully I've got several spots that I've kind of, like he said, you got to have a plan B. So I've got several spots that I've scouted and looked at. And this is all just from years of hunting the same property over and over, where you can say, look, this is where they bed. This is where the does bed. This is where the bucks bed. This is
right.
The wind that we typically get. This property was cut over 8 years ago, so they're now starting to bed in it. All that kind of stuff. It's hard to go in just blind one year and figure it all out.
Right.
And I think most hunters will tell you, the longer you hunt a property, the more successful you're going to be.
Mm-hmm.
It's just from research and development. Just learning and figuring it out as you go. But you can learn things from other properties and take them to new properties and say, look, this looks a lot like what I see. I guarantee you they're using it for X or Y, Z,
So I'll ask a question that in my mind is good for each of you. Um, as far as like, let's say you're one of those like me and Brandon's been for many years. We don't have private land, or we just acquired some, like you're in a hunting lease or something like that. And basically all you have is either new ground or public land, which is always new ground, right?
Right.
So going into the season, what if, let's just say you're hunting new ground or public property, going into the season, what are some things that you're looking for? So I know with Jaden, being further south than us, it's going to be different than what, say, Brandon is going to be looking for.
Mm-hmm.
So dive into some of that mindset as well. Like, what are you looking for if you're going to a new piece of property? Jaden, what are you looking for in further in the south? Brandon, what are you looking for to say, okay, I feel like I can target? Now, obviously, once you target, then you start these other processes with, feeding, camera checks, whatever, and all that other hanging stands according to the wind and which way he's coming. But what are you looking for to even find something like this on new ground?
Go ahead, Brandon.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, I'm going to approach this as more of a public land hunting aspect because that's what I have done the majority of. I know several times we've said, a lot of times people will key in on food source. All right, so what is their food source? Well, on public land, pretty much the only thing that you have to go off of is your natural growth stuff. Most people are not going to hunt a man-made green field on public land. It's just not something smart that I've ever really done. I don't feel like it's a place to where you're going to go and see a mature buck. You may catch a doe or two slipping through there. So what are your other forms at this point? Everybody pretty much is going to go to, we'll find some oak trees in early season. Well, buddy, I'm going to tell you something. Where I come from, there are tens of thousands upon tens of thousands of acres of nothing but prime
oaks,
hardwood, acre and dropping oak trees, white oaks, red oaks. I mean, how do you narrow that down? It's impossible.
Right.
So
I mean, at that point, you're not finding scrapes and rubs. So really, the only thing you can look for is beds and droppings.
Right.
That's the only sign that you can look for.
So for me,
you're covering thousands of acres. It's
yes,
it's hard to do.
Right. So for me, it is let me find a change. That may be a change in topography or a change of, an environment to where there's a little 1 acre patch of pine trees that are 20 foot tall and thick as the hair on a cat's back,
Yeah, that's kind of where you start.
That's where you start, right. And then you start looking for use sign, not use sign. You start looking for sign and then historical sign. That's kind of a big thing for me. And then, 75% of my success in the past has been hunting, and I've told Brett this, and it may seem and sound ridiculous, but hunting something that I can see. Hunting something that I can see 200 or 300 yards, because if I can lay my eyes on a deer, even if it's hardwoods, because I'm telling you, the places where I'm talking about we hunt, you can see 200 or 300 yards in the woods, in the hardwoods. They're huge, big open hardwoods.
Yeah.
But if I can see a deer that's 200 yards down in the bottom cross, well, now I have, all right, I know they like it down there for some reason different than up here. But that one little bitty piece to the puzzle may lead me to, all right, I'm going to go down there and check it out. There's sign, there's a trail, so on and so forth, So,
yeah,
there are things that I would do differently on private land, but I feel like that's a little bit closer to Jaden's expertise, so I'll let him dive into that.
Yeah, which honestly, right now I was so deep into what he said that I forgot what you even asked. Ask me
so
again.
Basically, it's fine. So basically, in your neck of the woods, it's totally different than ours. We have mountains, hills, hollers, like he was saying, thousands and thousands of acres of hardwood, open hardwoods.
Right.
But in your location, it's flat. It's a lot of flat land, a lot of swamp, thickets, different things like that. So if you're going to a new piece of, whether it's public or private, what are you mapping out? What are you onnexing, as they say, to say, okay, this is where I want to go first. Check this out. What are you looking for?
So for me, like you said, my area is a little different. I'm probably going to just start and looking at elevation, because elevation change where I'm at is a lot bigger deal than it is where y'all are. I mean, where you guys may be dealing with 300 feet of elevation is not a big deal. 300 feet of elevation difference where I'm at is a huge deal. So I can look at a map and see a big, like what looks like an old riverbed or creek bed or something, and see that the elevation's way different, and it kind of forms into a saddle. And until you get in there and like see the vegetation, see if it's actually growing anything, stuff like that, I'll check out, pinch points, stuff like that. I would say that you can get a pretty good idea on onX. Like, we're going to Missouri this year, and you can kind of look on onX and see, like, this spot looks pretty good. You can tell the trees are different here to here. It's got, some elevation changes. It kind of sweeps around. Like, it's going to be something you want to check out. So you'll get in there, look at it. It's like, oh, wow, this hadn't been cut in 2 years. It's neck high in grass. Like, obviously you're going to be able to see trails in there if there's trails. So you're going to get on the ground and kind of check and see, hey, is there any deer trails in here? Because deer are kind of a creature of habit. So if they've got a big field, it's 200 acres, they could walk anywhere on it. But most of the time they're going to follow, maybe 5 trails, that for some reason all of their parents have followed that same trail, and it's just what they like to do. I don't have the answer to why they do that, but typically they do. Year after year, they'll follow the same trail. So if you've hunted or not hunted an area, I mean, the tall grass is a good indicator of trails. So I'll do that. I'll find trails. Okay, look, here's a huge beaten trail right here. Where is it going? You can follow it to a change in habitat. A lot of time there may be an oak tree that for some reason they're eating on it, whether it's because that nut dropped earlier or whatever the case may be. You're living in their world, so you're kind of having to like figure out why are they doing what they're doing. Just go from there. If the sign's great there, you may want to put a camera up, check it out. If it's not, or if it's not as good as you think it should be, then keep going, check another trail. There's definitely not a scientific method to 100% success. And you asked me, it's been a week ago now, you asked me what was, if I had to describe Alabama deer hunting in one word, what would it be? And I said patience. And I got to thinking about that, and I was like, I think it's more drive than it is patience. Because if you have a lot of drive in what you're doing, it could lead you to have patience. It could lead you to, press on or not. You just drive to succeed, I guess. So,
which is kind of funny, because I feel like he asked me the same question around the same time. Apparently that was something that's kind of been weighing on his mind. But I told him seat time, which is pretty much exactly what you just said. It's not about patience as much as it is for me. The more you do it, the bigger chance of success that you're going to have.
Right. And if and the more seat time, so you've just got to be driven to do it. And that's with anything. Right. That's with Harmony Game Calls, that's with our podcast, that's with everything. If it's so easy to not do it that it's amazing that anybody does anything because of how easy it is to just not do it. So you've got to have drive to do it if you want to succeed. So,
that's right.
There's a lot of people out there and like, this is how you do it in this area. It's like, there's a lot of different ways to do it. But there's some things that you can't change, and, scent, wind direction is very important. So a lot of time the way deer come in and out of an area is a lot of time based on specific winds that they get a lot. Yeah. So in my area, south wind is a little more common because I don't have big hills and valleys and stuff to sweep that, or one wind what may be more than the other in a certain area. And whether you know that or not, because you're just scouting it, that deer knows. So you may be sitting there thinking that this wind is great, but they've got a trail going to that area for that wind because they know that wind, they can smell which way, so it's just like you said, seat time, kind of figuring it out, but you can't know until you just get in there and scout it and come up with a game plan. And there's no foolproof plan. It's just diligence and drive and being consistent.
Yeah.
Not being stupid about it.
Yep. Hey guys, just going to say, if you like what we're doing here on the podcast, please feel free to leave us a comment and let us know, or give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It really does help us go down the road a little way. So we appreciate it, and we thank you for tuning in.
Yeah, I totally agree. You do. You got to dive in. You've got to, boots on the ground. I mean, there's been many times, and that's all I've pretty much ever done most of my life is public land deer hunting, South and Northern Alabama. But you can get on the OnX, and which there were days we didn't have that back, 20 years ago. But and all you had was topo maps or just getting your butt out and walking.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or hearsay, but nowadays with the OnX, we'll go, to some public land in South Alabama, it's, any kind of new territory that we're trying to look at. We'll start looking at, the topo and, and the terrain and all that. But, it can look really, really good on OnX, and then you get in there and you're just like, man, this is not what I expected, and maybe the map's not updated or something like that. So
yeah, or they cut it or clear cut it or whatever. They change it, so you just never know until you get in there.
Yeah, and a simple little trick that I've learned just within the last year. One of the guys that I hunt with a few times a year, but I work with him, kind of along that same subject. One day he said, well, just look at Google Earth, and I was like, well, okay, it's going to show you the same thing. It's updated, a lot more frequently. And so sure enough, I flip over on there just to see, I got those couple places in my head of this look like this year. Well, you look at it on OnX and it looks like it's fresh cut over. You flip it up on Google Earth and it shows you that it's, highly grown and wooded, which is what it's, closer to in real life this point in time. So.
Right.
But that's just, one of them things. You flip over there and use it just to say, is it accurate or not,
It's a tool, which I think OnX is getting a little better about staying accurate than they have in the past years. But I mostly use my OnX for, tracking trails in and out, camera locations, stand locations. Right. I don't necessarily use it as much for just looking at terrain, just because most of the time I'm not looking at thousands and thousands of acres. I'm looking at hundreds of acres. So I feel confident that I can just go in there and walk it rather than looking at it. But like I said earlier, in the case of us going to Missouri on Mark Twain, it's like 2 million acres or something crazy. So, so there's no way.
So Jaden, you've had some past experience of hunting kind of the Midwest. You went to Nebraska, wasn't it?
Yeah, went to Nebraska, and we were kind of right on the Kansas line. Like where we were staying was, you could see Kansas from the back, which you can see a long way in any direction. But
so how much different is that than hunting Alabama?
Oh man, I mean,
like what was your tactics out there versus what you do here? Like is it night and day?
You can see the trails from the road in the areas that we were in the areas we were hunting. You could see the trails from the road. No, it's different. So in Nebraska, there's a lot of cornfields, soybean fields, and so there's not a lot of wooded area. I mean, you've just about got to have 1,000 acres to have 50 acres of woods.
That's so crazy. It's so crazy to hear.
Mm-hmm. So you can pretty much tell the route that the deer are going to walk through. And I mean, dude, it'll be a wide open field, and you'll think there's nothing out there, and all of a sudden you'll look left and look right, and there'll be a deer standing there. Like, where in the world did he come from? But there's little rolls and like valleys and little craters and stuff that you can't see just looking straight across, but there'll be trails, and it's 5 feet down, and they can just walk in those and just be invisible, and then you can't see them, and then all of a sudden they'll come up on a little hump or something, and boom, there they are. So
I know for me and Horton the other couple of years ago when we went to Kentucky, it kind of the same concept of what you're talking about. What different tactics do you use? Well, around home turf, it's always been the deeper you walk, the better off you've been, or the better off you are.
Mm-hmm.
You walk deep, you get away from where everybody else is walking. Well, again, we've covered this space before. Your back door is always at somebody else's front door.
Yeah.
But I mean,
That's
up there,
land.
we walked around and hunted that place for 2 days straight and didn't see a deer, period.
Yeah.
And then he talks to one of his buddies and is like, where are you hunting at? How far are you walking? This. And he's like, we're walking so far to the backs of there. He's like, no, man, get in the edge of the field and literally walk the edge of the field. Those deer travel the edges. They don't like to get deep. And sure enough, we found very quickly that's where all the sign is. And the last day we hunted, and it was just one deer, but, at that point we were just happy to see a deer,
A deer. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's a success, really,
But
Right.
y'all went up there, and y'all were only there for like 2 to 3 days. Like that's
3 days.
That's hard to really on something as large as where y'all were at, public land. That's kind of hard to pin something down that quick on new territory. So
when we go somewhere like that, we like to scout at least 2 days if we can help it.
Right.
1 to 2 days of scouting, and then maybe 3 days of hunting is kind of what we're going to try to do in Missouri for sure. Of course, in Nebraska, when I went there was already an organization of people that knew the area. I think we were covering probably about, I want to say like 7,000 acres, and it was not one big chunk. It was kind of scattered everywhere.
But there was only like 200 acres of woods, right?
Yeah, probably.
So you knew where the deer were at, right?
Well, it was 200 acres of hardwoods, but this is like not chunks. This is probably 200 yards wide, and then it just runs along these field edges. But then you've got sage and overgrown stuff, that they would kind of bed in, and like I said, dude, it's I don't want to come off as that it's easy hunting there, but it is easier to kill a mature buck there than it is in Alabama. And I'm sorry, I'm sure that we're going to upset some people, but that's just how I feel. I've hunted in both places, and I've hunted in South Alabama all my life, and it is tough. It is very tough. North Alabama too. All Alabama. It's tough.
It's very tough. I describe it as a needle in a haystack, and I actually know.
Well, they can just move anywhere around you, and you can't see them.
Right. The terrain, especially up in North Alabama, and even in South Alabama, I mean, it's so thick. And I mean, I've seen places, especially where Jaden, on actually one of our episodes, I think, what was the something dominance? What was that episode of ours?
Showing dominance.
Showing dominance, yeah. The first part of it, you can just tell, like, you can't see past 10, 15 yards. I mean, but you're hunting right on top of a little creek bed or something like that, or a drainage or whatever.
Yeah.
And they're there, and that's kind of early season stuff where you still have foliage and all that stuff. And
yeah, it's hard to see.
But I know a guy that lives in Iowa, moved to Iowa to hunt giant whitetails. And yes, he has told me anyone can come up here and do this. Anyone.
Yeah.
It is not hard to come up here and kill these giant 200-inch bucks. It's not. Now, I'm not degrading the animal, because the animal, I feel like, is the same here as it is there.
Absolutely.
The mature buck is a mature buck, and they're intelligent and they're smart. And there's no degrading in what it is. It's just that it's so much easier to narrow down where and what to hunt.
The fact that they can stay hidden at all just shows how intelligent they are.
Exactly.
In some of that area, because it's it's wide open.
But also the rules, and the management of those places like Iowa and Kansas and Missouri, and
it's very strict.
It's totally different than Alabama, to where the mentality here is if it's brown, it's down. And I mean, you just $2 a day, and as many does as you can load on the back of your truck or whatever, and I mean, that's fine. But if we had something like that set in place, like those northern states, and and I'm not a biologist by any means. I leave that up to JJ. He's the biologist. But
I do not have a degree in anything deer hunting related, so that is a nickname.
Oh, hey. Yeah. But Jaden, like, he knows things, like if there's a stick laying the wrong way, the deer don't like that. No, that's a running joke.
Yeah.
It is a running joke.
Well, I'll put it to you this way. Yeah. I'll put it to you this way.
It's the downward slope.
There's several things that I've learned over the past 2 years with getting to hunt with Jaden, and just hearing his mindset. And 2 years ago, I didn't realize that there was even a such thing as bachelor bucks. And that's something that we got to see last year, Brett. And it's we didn't really realize it till about a week ago. We're building an episode. And I can't say anything that's going to spoil it, but moral of the story is this time last year on a property that we had never seen or hunted, we threw out some cameras, and we had a group of bachelor bucks that ran together that we seen, September, October. And those bucks are not there this year. I haven't gotten a buck picture. I had the camera on the same field, same place, same time, or same time frame. But those bucks are not showing up this year as they were last year. But the cool thing about it is one of the bucks that we got on film or on picture last year is going to be the star in one of the episodes for this year. So we'll just
if you're watching this, this episode is already dropped. It's called The Story of Pain.
Oh, okay.
PAIN. So if you're watching this, the episode is already there. You can go catch up and see what Brandon's talking about. But sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, but that was the moral of the story. The moral of the point that I was trying to make is 2 years ago, I didn't know that there were, you hear this stuff about bachelor groups of bucks, but I got to see that with my own eyes with, just the use of the trail cameras. And it doesn't matter, cellular or not. Either way, we would have seen the same thing. But, that and learning how to play your scent, to good things. Just your scent is not a bad thing, really, as long as it's associated with something good. But you've helped to bring a lot of things to light and to make sense. And it's neat to get to use some of the practices on private land, because I'm telling you, it's not something that you can do consistently on public land. It's impossible to do those things.
Yeah, there's no way to consistently make your scent a positive thing on public land unless you're the only one hunting that area and you've only been hunting it, and you can kind of, keep the good vibes going. Private land, you can control it, so why not make it the best possible thing that you can do? There's some private land places around me that it's like, it'd be better off if those people had nothing to do with it, because they've just, drowned it with, just them riding four-wheelers all the time and just being nuts, and it's just a lot of, you just do more harm than good. Public land, you can't really make human presence good to an impact that you will be able to see, in my opinion. So the only thing to do really is to just try to isolate as far away from the main crowd as you can. Obviously, we're talking about like non-rut type stuff. During the rut, you can get away with some other stuff, but non-rut, these bucks are on the top of their game. Their brains are not overwhelming with testosterone to where they can't think straight, and they are smart,
yeah.
Way smarter than people would give them credit. And those bucks that we like to hunt, 5-6 years old, on public land are very tough to do, and people think they don't exist. They do exist. They're just in some deep, thick stuff, and they don't like to, they don't like to be seen.
Right.
And they're good at it.
Right.
They're very good at it. That's something I said in the ending of the Story of Pain episode, pretty much going into why this was an important story for us to tell. If you're a watcher from somewhere up north and you hunt 200-inch deer in Iowa, it may not be something.
Let us come hunt.
Right. It may not be something that you're interested in, but
I'll let you boys.
Right.
Holla at us.
But what I said is a mature buck is a mature buck, no matter how big his rack is. He's still alive. Like Propane, he's an old warrior. He's got an eye out. He's going downhill.
He looks like he was in physical pain.
Yeah.
I think that's.
He's just an old dude, man. But an old dude is smart. He's lived that long for a reason. He's not stupid.
Yeah.
So the goal of that property was to make this safe haven and for mature bucks to feel comfortable coming in. And we had several daylight opportunities, but have them come in, feel safe, and possibly get an opportunity to harvest one, and this was our first year. So obviously we're going into our second year this year. And like Brandon said, we know a lot more. We have some history with this place now. So we kind of know where they're going to be coming from and what they like to do and, and all that stuff. So yes, that's going to help tremendously, having some history with the property. Yeah. But, places like public land, I've it's been on and off for me. I've encountered, some giants. And the biggest one I've ever seen, my tree stand was on my back, and I was waving at Brandon while he was still sitting there in the tree hunting. And I looked to my left, and there is a giant buck staring at me, and literally it's like a ghost, just disappears into some of the thickest stuff ever. But that deer was heading right towards Brandon. And it was 12:30. It was literally like, okay, we're just coming down to eat some lunch at the truck, and we're going to go sit, the rest of the day type thing. And man, I tell you, it made me sick. It made me sick because that would have very well been, hopefully it would have been Brandon's buck. But, I've had, all I got to say is don't go to Vegas with me. Yeah. Because you're going to lose your wallet.
I was going to say a while ago when you were talking about going up north, and hunting all that stuff, JJ said that, if it can be done, you can do it. JJ, we're going to test that theory because we're taking bread.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. I have not had the luck, but I think a lot of it was just, growing up, not really having any kind of direction in how to hunt, where to hunt, whatever. So I was literally just flying by the seat of my pants. And, you'd watch, or I grew up watching, Primos and the other guys or whatever, but you're not really learning. These guys are hunting ranches and private property and stuff like that. So, when all this public hunting stuff kind of came on the scene for YouTube, it was kind of a big eye-opener. And I know it was probably for a lot of people, because I know it's helped me, not just with deer, but also turkey hunting. And, I know there's a lot of good information out here on YouTube. Yeah. And it's something to be tapped into, and it's something that can really, up your game and success in any type of hunt, really. So, but having the opportunities that we've had, Jaden, it's a huge deal. It's a huge deal that you've given me the opportunity to come down and learn. I don't need to come shoot your deer. I have learned, and I haven't shot your deer. Brandon does. He shoots all your deer. And that's just Brandon's thing. No, I'm just kidding. But no, I haven't. And it has been such a good experience to come and learn more about the animal. And, this is right here. Let me just show y'all. This is my love. See this lens, this camera? I love filming, wild turkey and deer. It is, if I have it on my viewfinder, to me, the success is already there. I've got him. He's there. So I don't feel the need to pull the trigger on that 3-year-old buck. Now, something like hooks pops up. Yes. That's a buck of a lifetime, but I don't have the drive to go out and just kill deer. If you do, and you're a meat eater and that's your thing, good. Wear it out. Yeah. but
Yeah.
I don't. Hey guys, hope you're enjoying the podcast. Please thumbs up, like, subscribe. That really helps us out. Also, if you're not following us over on Instagram, that's where we kind of do our daily updates, things that are coming down the line. So if you go over on Instagram, give us a follow. You'll be able to keep up with everything that's dropping, not only for us as a company, but also content-wise as well. So we're pretty active over on Instagram with photographs, different things like that. So head over, give us a follow. Stay tuned. I don't feel the need to do that. I just want to be there in the woods, have the experience, have the encounters, the up-close encounters, and that's what gets me. That's what does it for me. So to each his own.
Right. I know, last year we've got a couple episodes early in our, videoing and editing career, but we were down at Jaden's, and a couple of those episodes we had the Hollywood encounter. Those few days worth of hunting to me was crazy, because I seen more deer in one or two sets than I had seen all year. Now, those particular deer were pretty much the same deer day in and day out, with an exception or two. But just things like vocalizations, I heard more vocalizations in real life than what I'd ever heard. Some of the things that Jaden's talking about, leaving good positive influences when you're introducing your scent, with food or little goodies or a block or something like that. We done that one day. The very first night that I seen Hollywood, we were there feeding that spot literally an hour before that. And that's, in my past, that's just no-nos, You don't go down to the green field unless you're going to hunt it. So, a lot of that stuff that, I'd seen him, we had to run deer out of the field a night or two, just so that I could come down the tree and it not. I would rather his four-wheeler or his truck be what introduced human factor than me climbing down out of a tree.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it wasn't a good idea for me to come swinging down out of a tree because scent was introduced at that point.
Well, you want them to think that you're coming, not that you're already there.
Jaden, are you back with us?
That's right.
Yeah,
Recording?
I'm back with you.
You're live, everything? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm having to charge some batteries because apparently I ran every one of them that I had dead. So I'm charging the other three while I got a half of them.
Okay. And we've gotten a little bit off topic too. This was just some mindset stuff for early season. And we kind of wander off sometimes, but that's just part of the podcast. You kind of get in that mindset and you kind of run with it. But
oh yeah,
are y'all
I'm having a good time?
Are y'all shooting yet? Y'all shot bows yet?
Yeah. I've shot mine, which I do it just because I enjoy it anyway. It's kind of a stress reliever for me. But yeah,
What are you shooting, Jade?
Like what bow am I shooting or what?
Yeah, like what's your setup?
I shoot a Matthews. It's a V3.
You got the coolest stuff.
It's a little older. Which is weird to say because I feel like I just bought it. But it's a V3. Right. Since then, they've come out with a V3X.
Of course.
And then the Phase 4.
Of course.
So it's a 2 model year old bow now. But I like it. It's pretty sweet. It's fast. It's quiet. I spent a lot of money on it, which you do not have to do to kill a deer. I mostly bow hunt, so it kind of makes sense for me to have a nicer bow than guns, just because I don't really bow hunt that much. And when I go to places like Nebraska, I don't gun hunt that much. And when I go to places like Nebraska, Missouri, we're typically only going in bow season, just because for one, it's the time of the year that it's not heavily crowded. Gun season in those states is pretty packed because they'd only get like a couple weeks.
Yeah.
So,
right.
Yeah, it's what I enjoy doing. But I've had other brands in the past. I just kind of hung with Matthews, and I don't know. They've just been a sweet bow for me.
Yeah, were you shooting Brandon?
Yeah, I shoot a Hoyt. Hoyt. I don't know.
Hoyt.
Us and P might call it a Hoyt. I shoot a hullet.
Oh,
It is way more than 2 or 3 years old. I actually bought this bow brand new 2010, 11, somewhere around there.
which doesn't seem like that long ago.
I used it for.
It doesn't, does it?
No.
Yeah, it's 13 years. So that puts it into a little bit better.
That seems a
perspective.
long time.
And I only remember that because, I only remember that because it was the year that my daughter was born, or the year after that, one of the two. So, but I bought it brand new, set it up, used it for 2 or 3 years. Kind of got out of bow hunting. Really, I got out of deer hunting altogether because of life. 2 young kids and all that stuff. I just,
Yeah.
different time, different place. Anyways, I sold it to one of my friends, and come to find out, 3 years ago, he said something about selling it, and I was like, heck, I'll buy it back from you. So it was still in really good shape, and he'd put a brand new string on it. And other than that, everything was set up exactly like what I'd had it. Draw links the same, peep sights in the same place. So literally, I picked it up the very first shot and was, hitting within what you should have been without being able to shoot a bow in 3 or 4 years.
Oh, yeah. Us country boys, we don't know nothing about that paper tuning stuff.
Mm-mm.
We just want to know,
That's right.
does it stick a deer and leave a good blood trail? That's what we want to know.
That's
Yeah.
right. And most of that's more about your arrows and broadheads.
Somebody asked me, said, is your bow tuned right? I said, my guitar is. I'm kidding, by the way.
I hadn't got to stick anything with it since I've owned it the second time, I guess. But hopefully we'll change that.
Yeah, we're going to change that for sure. We got
You could have killed that buck with a bow. That one you killed with your rifle. He was pretty close, wasn't he? Or was he about 60?
Yeah, he was about 70. Yeah, I would say 70, 75 when I shot him. So
yeah, 70 and them woods.
For my likings, he would have had to been like 30, 35 for it to be comfortable.
That is
to
a
me.
good spot to bow hunt, though. It's pretty tight in there.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm in the market for one. Jaden's kind of turned me on to some of the bear bows.
It's a good value, man.
Good for the money. So I'm not like Jade, or unlike Jaden. I don't do a ton of bow hunting. I would prefer to gun hunt, but did a lot of bow hunting when I was younger. Did a lot more deer hunting when I was younger. And kind of just, like Brandon put some things down. I literally last year was the first year I have deer hunted hard and consistently in over 10 years. Now I've deer hunted a few times here and there down at Jaden's once or twice, but kind of got out of it just because I was just, I don't know, wasn't, overly successful at it and struggled a lot. Didn't really ever have any property that was really worth a fart. And public land hunting was just a struggle for me. So just not really knowing where to start. But now with some different mindset and some more knowledge, I guess I could say, just from hunting with Jaden and some of the experiences that I've had at his place, it's really put a lot more into perspective. And I've started really, really enjoying it again. So I'm probably going to grab me one this year to have, especially for going to Missouri. So,
yeah. And we used to do the same way, Jaden. Me and Brett used to shoot from way back in the day.
Yeah.
I mean, we'd get out in the yards, this time of year when it was 85, 90 degrees outside, just because we enjoyed it. So I know what you mean by that, 100%.
So, I feel like we're kind of, past where we came to be on this podcast, and we've got a lot more stuff that we're going to be doing and talking more deer, and especially as we enter into the season and the things that we're finding, some of the things that might be storytelling type that we've from last year. Hey, this buck's back, yada yada. So we'll probably go ahead and wrap this one up. But guys, if y'all have anything that you want to add for Alabama deer hunters, whether south, private, public, whatever, if there's anything you want to add, this is, my tip, whatever, to be focusing your time and your efforts in right here this time of season as we progress into the season. Is there anything that y'all want to add on that?
I would say my 2 cents would be to kind of check for early.
And Jaden just can't get it together. Brandon, is there anything you would throw in?
I mean, nothing really other than that. Historical data is always good. So I know for me, that's where I plan on starting this year, just based off of some of the things that happened last year. But all in mind, pretty much keeping, the thought of food and water, keying in on some bachelor bucks and trying to pattern them. That's the biggest thing for me. So, but other than that, it's pretty much the same tune.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Time spent, and when you're in their area doing your checking and stuff like that, you're leaving the positive, the positive reinforcement basically of your scent being there, leaving them something that gives them a positive, what is the word I'm trying to say? Positive what? Yeah, I guess. But
there you go.
Positive association with you being there and leaving them that positive vibe. We'll go with that. But yeah, I mean, and it's just like last year, we didn't really have our minds wrapped around kind of what was really happening. It was more of a recon year, I guess you could say. And then a really, really nice buck showed up on Newfield, opening day of bow season, broad daylight, 10 o'clock, I think it was, something like that, 9, 10 o'clock. So, I mean, obviously, cameras aren't everything. And, sometimes the cameras will even lie. I mean, we've had that come about as well this past year. And we'll get into what kind of cameras and gear and all that stuff that we use in a later video. But, just hunt smart, always hunt your wind, and, try to follow some of the guidelines, some of the things that we've been talking about with leaving that positive association of when you're in there.
For lack of better words.
I know. Yeah. And I know, Jaden, you used to say, or you said last year when we had this little conversation down on your property, basically, if you can stay out of an area, that's probably the best thing to do.
Yeah.
As far as, not spending a whole lot of time in that area until you're ready to go in and hunt that buck once you've located it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you can't consistently keep a pattern going every week of you letting those deer know that you are a healthy asset to the woods, if you can't do that and your only option is go every so often, whether that be every couple weeks or every month, then I would say you're doing more hurt than you are good, in my personal opinion. So I would say staying out of there is probably going to benefit you more than just going randomly, but I would say now that I've kind of like just grown and on personal property, private, I'm saying, if you can get a pattern going where you're in there once a week, leaving a positive reinforcement there, I mean, it's just like anything. It's just like dog training. Eventually those deer are not going to see you as a threat. They're going to see you as, a highlight of their day, Oh, he's coming. I smell him coming from a long way away.
Right.
And then when deer season comes, they're kind of used to smelling you. So if they smell you, it's kind of like hopefully you've got your scent on and stuff. So they're like, I don't think he's here right now, but I think he was here an hour ago, or maybe he's here right now, but he's 400 yards up there at the barn or whatever. And so they kind of do the whole stomp, head nod, go about their business rather than tail up, take off.
The owl.
Yeah.
They do their owl movement.
Yeah. The whole head. Yeah. That thing. So if you can do that, you've won the game, really. If you can consistently go in there and then they smell you, but they don't consider you a threat, and so they don't hightail it and run. In my opinion, you've won. And they don't know that you're 20 yards. They think you're 400, or they think you've come and gone. So,
right.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Well, all right. We're going to wrap this up. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us. If you're still with us, please give us a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button if you hadn't already. The thumbs up really helps our stuff out, really helps the video along. And guys, please comment. Let us know your thoughts. Give us some feedback on the video. And hope y'all enjoyed our very first podcast on preseason preparations for deer hunting. We'll see you guys next time.
See you later.
Harmony Game Calls, custom handmade game calls. You can find us on the web at www.harmonygamecalls.com.